Okay, here we are at the stop number 1, Valley Forge Visitor Center. They do have a museum right here. So this is the back entrance. We're gonna go all the way down. We were here earlier, and to be able to see a movie theater right here, 19 minutes about the war. Great history. I think you can see the video on YouTube actually. So here's the second floor. You have nice cutouts here. And then a lot of the flags here. This kind of looks more like a kid's corner. Okay, if we go down the stairs, we can go to the museum, as well as information about the guides and the gift shop. You can see the 3 flags right here. American flag, the U.S. Department of Interior, and the National Park Service. Here's the mini exhibit. Here's an overview of the timeline of the Valley Forge within the American Revolution. So the American Revolution, as of this recording, started about 250 years ago on April 19th, 1775, with the first battle at Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. And then we eventually see that they declare war later in August. And then we have the Congress adopting the Declaration of Independence in 1776, and then they're going to start doing the fighting around here. 1777 is where the army marches into Valley Forge when the British already took over Philadelphia. Right here, they took over this map, Philadelphia right here, September 1777. The red line is British troops. American troops are retreating north. And they arrived at Valley Forge in December 19th in the winter. Now, this isn't the harshest winter, but this is a good time for them to ration stuff, reorganize the troops. And this is the training stuff actually helps them eventually win the war in 1783 in Yorktown. So a lot of this is a lot of the turning points. And that's why Valley Forge is very important. Because you develop the skills for training, and that's what helps win the war at the end. So when they got here, they can have documentation of the terrain. So they have to reuse stuff like the paper, the pens, the protractor rulers, and drafting tools to be able to better map stuff out. And I like this 3D topographic map of the areas that are in Valley Forge area. So we got some defenses, the redoubts. We see Artillery Park over here. The Grand Parade, that's probably where they did most of the training stuff. Inner line defenses, we see. And then a lot of the stuff here for the Schuylkill River and Valley Creek. Very strategic site for Washington's headquarters. Probably for a lot of ships could travel up the river. Good intersection point. And here's stuff's talking about the uncertain future. They are preparing stuff. Here we see a statue of George Washington. That's a nice painting or image of a painting in the background. 12,000 soldiers already came to Valley Forge, making it the 4th largest city in America at the time. George Washington was 43 back then. Veteran from the French and Indian War in 1773. And he was able to was a great leader into Congress, and because of his success, eventually became the first president of the United States and an icon in world history. And again, here we see that they had issues with the supplies. Most of the food they had was fire cake, mixture of water, flour, baked over fire. Maybe like a Rice Krispie treat, maybe. You see that they forage for food. Some of them wanting to sell their food and grain for Continental currency. And although foraging parties occasionally return with extra food, situations still remain dire, even through the spring. And this is probably what they would cook with. How much food do you eat each day? I eat a lot of food. See the comparison of the rations. Oops. So they only had 2,000 to 3,000 calories a day. So that's a lot more than the typical 2,000 that Americans are required, or all people are required. And this is probably what they ate. And the daily ration for Valley Forge, a lot decreased, 500. Wow, just the basics. I would go hungry like that. And today's US Army, 3,200 to 4,600 calories a day. And what do they eat? A lot of stuff that are well preserved in packets, that they can just use water to warm it up. Ready to eat foods. Just add water. So they started making a bridge in 1777 with these supplies. Let's take a look at this map. Delaware River, Philadelphia, I think that's right here. Valley Forge is on top, probably around here. Yeah. So they retreated northwest, about 20 miles away from the city. Here's the pieces to build the hut, kind of like the Lincoln logs. I never grew up with Lincoln logs, more of a Legos person, but I know people who like to build. This is a very fun exhibit for children. I really like this part because this is talking about 18th century medicine practices. So, what really killed the army? Most likely diseases. More than against facing blood and blood. Let's see. How did they fight dysentery? Usually caused by human waste. So they had to increase the sanitary requirement. Constantly rehydration. How about influenza and pneumonia? We're almost at the end of influenza season. So these are respiratory diseases. So usually what they would do is that they would minimize sharing blankets, clothing, trying to limit exposure. Nowadays we have vaccines and even antibiotics if it is a bacterial disease to help out. Smallpox is also one of the most prevalent diseases. George Washington survived deadly smallpox as a teenager, so eventually you could get immunity if you have that. So this is actually the first state-mandated mass immunization programs in history, helping to maintain military readiness. Yeah, smallpox is usually mostly eliminated here because most people have been vaccinated pretty well. And the logs over here kind of reminds me of Lincoln logs, like building a house. Here's some of the tools that they use. A sod lifter, pit mattock with a hammer, an American spade, and the fascine knife. They gotta clear out all the wood somehow to build all the cabins or the huts. They constructed over 1,200 huts in the first month. Tightly packed with clay, straw walls, wood, burning fireplaces. This floor is talking more about the medicine and the tools that they use. And revolutionary medicine. A small amount of infection under the soldier's skin by inoculation. That's how they did the immunization. This is probably how they would get the stuff cut into people's skin, the folding scalpel. These are a lot of these medical tools that we can see. The razor, the mirror, mortar and pestle, spoon, the wig curlers, personal hygiene. The lice comb they remove for conservation. And in some of these, like lancets, for procedures like bleeding, surface wound were sealed with a heated cautery iron. Wow. I'm glad that we got coagulation methods if there's bleeding instead of using iron. And surgical instruments. Medicine has definitely advanced over the past 3 centuries. Here are some diseases and symptoms. Pneumonia and influenza are still mostly present today. So if you drank potentially dirty water from the river, you had no option. Look at all of this stuff. Was the physician correct? That's dysentery. If you stand in the cold for the last 3 days, what is this? You have chest, abdominal pain, cough, congestion, fatigue, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. What is this? Pneumonia. This is kind of like a health test right here. Coughing and sneezing for a few days. You see aching, chills, sweats, headache, fever, coughing, congestion. What type of indication of disease is the diagnosis is the doctor making? Influenza. Last stop, he shared a blanket with a fellow soldier and he said, come from the hospital down the road. We get symptoms of fever, aching body, severe headache, severe back pain, nausea and vomiting. What is this? Smallpox. And here are the professionals, such as myself, highly trained, relied on primitive medical practices such as cold baths, purging the body with laxatives to treat the disease. Even prescribe mercury, whoa, highly poisonous chemical, often for scrapes and treating diseases. Wow, we have definitely advanced more from that, from mercury. Here are more of the tools, the tooth extractor, the amputation saw, and the amputation knife. This is all the tools that they would use. Fork, iron skewer, cooking supplies. Even a skillet and kettle. If you want a picture of what daily life could look like, here it is. fun and games. Whoa, what did they used to play here? All right, so they have buzzer, the domino was there. They got the game pieces too, mouth harp, marbles. Oh, I do like the glass marbles today. We got dice and cup, that's commonly known as Yahtzee, playing cards. Although they don't have the numbers here on this. Outside sports they could use, such as base, cricket, long bullets, a bowling game with cannonball. Here are some of the supplies we have here. Sewing, these are all clothing stuff. Reading material. The right one is probably more about biblical stuff. This cabinet is full of the weapons, the rifles and the pistols, muskets. The sharp piece is the bayonet, kind of like a spear. We even have swords. The spontoon. We can see some of the ancestors who served all the way in Valley Forge. And this is kind of like the organization of the army. Split into 5 divisions and some support as well. We got militia groups, and these are the Minutemen. There's the Grand Parade. They would drill there. That's where they get the regulations and training for fighting. The drills for the troop called the Blueberg. These are a lot of the training that they have here. They use the revolutionary muskets. Here's a diagram or the anatomy of it with a zoomed in stuff of the releasing mechanism. This video is demonstrating the actions here. Von Steuben is German and usually has to translate it, use a translator to get the commands. Here's the cock firelock. Fire. Boom! So it looks like this is like a 13-step method to be able to set up the musket. So a lot of practice in doing this pretty quickly. Von Steuben also commanded the positions as well, right? Positioning and aiming.
To the right about. Hey.
So these are more like commands for turning or where to look at. Right here, we can see more items here. More guns. Oh, the bayonets. These are the bayonets, not the spears. These are the pieces that they would attach to the sockets of these weapons, the muskets. They have a lot of horns here. The cartridge box. And rationing. That's how they would improve supply. Okay, so what happened after the war? We can see that they were much more prepared. The encampment left on June 19th, and they went on to the Battle of the British at Monmouth. This is in New Jersey, and eventually they won. They were able to continue in New York, and the Continental Army did secure Philadelphia. Eventually, the British did go down to the south, but eventually the siege of Yorktown happened in 1781. So we can see the timeline right here. And eventually the war is ending. The war at Yorktown lasts for almost 2 years. This is an 8.5-year-long war. And let's look at the legacy of Valley Forge from 1800s to today. Here's Washington's headquarters. Kind of looks similar to what we saw earlier in stop number 5. Eventually, we are preserving the old campgrounds. Nice that you can do canoeing around the area, and people love to walk around the park. Fishing as well. And here we have, reading the landscape, monuments, huts, historic homes, farmstead, the trees, earthworks, road tours, and the terrain. This is a map of where we went. We basically went clockwise all around here. Here is an exhibit about the Patriots of African descent. Some were free and some were enslaved. And we do have that memorial. We did pass by it, but unfortunately there was no place to stop. That's what the hut looked like we saw. Valley Forge ABCs. All right, let's go through the letters of the alphabet. Okay, let's go back to M. Quizzing glass. It's like a mini version of the magnifying glass. A runlet for rum. And this is used for rank. W for wampum. The Knox Bridge. Yoke. And Z is for Zattinger, Pennsylvania legislator who signed the account of clothing sent to General Anthony Wayne. Okay, and this is all of the donations we got. That's the end of the museum tour. Let's go outside. It's closing time at the Valley Forge Visitor Center. Just like all national parks, once it closes, the flag must come down. But we learned in Fort McHenry that the flag would still be there, but they get a different flag depending on the weather. This is a very lovely visitor center. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video, the Valley Forge tour. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a like. And if you really enjoy it, you are welcome to share this video. Please let me know in the comments below if you've been to Valley Forge before. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.